Hi, welcome to Sidewalk Talk. I'm Steve Fortunato. We look for stories of inspiration, and you can't get more inspirational than the story we're going to share with you today. I want you to imagine this. Um, there was this girl born. She weighed 14 ounces. Not 14 pounds, 14 ounces, right? That's less than a pound. Her chance of survival was zero, but apparently she wasn't listening. At the age of 1, diagnosed with cerebral palsy, she has fought through a ridiculous amount of obstacles in her life. She's undergone, I don't know, 30, 35 surgeries. Imagine trying to relearn how to walk. Well, she's done that 8 times, 8 different times. She's had to learn how to walk again. She has literally progressed from needing a wheelchair to ballroom dancing. At the age of 12, when she discovered there was no federal funding for cerebral palsy research, she decided, and she told her mom, that she wanted to become the voice for those that don't have one. So Lauren and her mom, Sherry, we're talking about Lauren Walier, and her mother, Sherry, founded Make Lemonaide Foundation for CP. It's a nonprofit organization. It continues today, raising awareness of CP, fostering inclusion, creating a supportive community, and awarding grants so that CP patients can access cutting-edge therapies. And that girl that was born weighing 14 ounces is now a college student. And her name again is Lauren, and she is joined by her mother, Sherry. Both of them fighters, courageous, and we appreciate you both. We love the story. We love what you're doing, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
So and you're going to notice Lauren's voice is, she struggles a little bit with her voice, but she's a speaker. She loves to speak. And so we're not going to stop, and nothing's going to stop her from doing anything. I know, Lauren, you have a surgery coming up in a week or so. But we know that if you want, we can start with that. You have a vocal cord situation, and we'll just go ahead and talk about that before we get into everything else.
Sure. So I found out as a freshman in college. It's my second semester, freshman year. I was working 1,000% as if college was my professional occupation. And I think through all that hard work, through all that physical and mental stress, it became very apparent that something was wrong because my health was rapidly declining. I would sit in class. I couldn't remember what they were telling me. I would study hours and hours, and I could only remember certain things of what I had studied. I'd have a conversation, and I couldn't remember what I had said 2 sentences prior. And I take pride in being very
Oh, I think we lost them. So I think Lauren and Cherry, I don't know if you can hear me. Oh, you're back. There you are. Your connection. You guys are in Florida. I'm in Buffalo. The connection froze there for a second. So you're back. So Lauren, you were saying that you were a freshman in college, and then you noticed some things that, and obviously you've had to fight to take care of it. So you've had multiple voice procedures and more to come.
Yes, this coming week, I think it'll be 28th. I'm very grateful that I had my parents' support. Even though I was, 8 hours away from home, my mom was like, it's time to look at your airway again. And I was very grateful to have parents that weren't going to stop until we found a medical home that was able to solve the issue. So I was very happy to be a patient at Cincinnati Children's and work with Dr. Michael Rudder, who is the #1 airway surgeon in the world. So if there's anybody out there that needs airway sharpening, check out Michael Rudder.
Mm.
He's the best, but also the most humble person I know. And soon to be 28 surgeries later, he has still not given up. So I'm very grateful.
Well, speaking of not giving up, I mean, obviously you don't give up. Your mom hasn't given up. No one's given up, and you're fighting. Talk to me about. Well, we'll get to the foundation. If one of you can explain, cerebral palsy is like, I don't know. I think it's. I don't think a lot of people know what it is. Sherry, can you throw it by us? Can you explain it to us? What is it? Or Lauren, whichever one.
It's a group. Yeah. Oh.
So I'm just really excited for this question because I did a series of interviews for my college internship with young adults with cerebral palsy for this project. And one of my interviewees, Danny Exford, described it really beautifully. He said that I have brain damage, and that brain damage is called cerebral palsy. And he and I had talked about the structuring of that because, like you said, if you say, I have cerebral palsy, people are like, I don't know what that is. Is it contagious? So leading with this idea of its effects, I think is really powerful. You always describe it as a stroke in an adult, but in a baby.
In simple terms, yes. So it's a group of neurologic disorders, and they affect each person differently depending on where potentially, maybe it's a brain bleed, they don't always know. That can happen in utero or up to age 3 in a little one. But depending on where that damage is in the brain, determines how it affects the individual. So it can affect your gross motor, which is very, very common. It can affect your fine motor. It can affect your speech. It can affect everything in your body. And it can be anything from, never being able to walk or talk or do simple things, being most severe, having horrific seizures, to, as you see Lauren today, right? Like she's very articulate and she can walk and do all of those things. But not everybody has that ability. And unfortunately, there's not enough funding behind it. And so they call it the forgotten disability. It's truly forgotten. When somebody says, gee, I don't really know what that is, that's forgotten.
There's your answer.
And there's not enough treatments for it. So you just feel like when Lauren was little, you just feel kind of lost out there. And that in itself is so unfortunate. When Lauren was little, there was no such thing as social media. So we didn't have a Facebook group that we could be a part of to reach out to and feel like we have some support in community. That's one thing, a part of our foundation launching in Buffalo, is that we have formed a beautiful community, a community that they refer to us as family. And that to me is such a beautiful compliment, because we love our family so much. And so for people to say that we're family, I feel like that's, the greatest accomplishment, number one. Anything you want to say? Yeah.
So when we think of cerebral palsy, you think it's of of children, because that's when it starts, right? Aren't we all? You were
Mhm.
diagnosed at 1. So
Mhm.
because I like the way you positioned it. That makes me think. So almost like think of a stroke in an adult. Same. It's not the same thing, but this I
Mhm.
understand. It's a great analogy for a child. And I remember seeing a statistic, and you might know it better than I do. I thought it was something like the number one motor skill um, uh, deficiency, or I don't know how they positioned it, but in children, right? Isn't that what?
Mhm.
So it's a disease. It's not like I mean, it's out there.
Yes,
You know.
it's um, it's very prevalent, and I think what people don't realize, what I realized during my internship, because I did my college internship through my nonprofit um, last semester, and what we don't think about is those children grow up to be adults,
Right. That's what I
and
mean. Yeah.
there's not only physical side effects, but there's social and mental side effects. Um, and I was just at a event, uh, and they pointed out it was actually an event of all women, but I think it stems beyond how challenging it is for adults to make friends. And I've said this for years, because you're not little kids on the playground anymore with the same favorite color.
Mhm.
It's more about social standing, or who you're friends with, what sports you do, or what you're interested in. It's not as open ended, so to speak. So I think what we pride ourselves on with the foundation is it's kids and children and families, but it's also adults. And we really recently brought that to the forefront last semester.
Lauren, how old are you now?
I'm 23.
So what are you studying in school?
I'm a communication studies major.
Hmm. And what do you plan on doing with that?
So I always had a plan to go on to grad school. So at some point, whenever I finish
Mhm.
undergrad, um, I'll be going to grad school for speech pathology,
Wow.
and I'll become a speech pathologist.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. That's inspirational. So let's talk about the Make Lemonade Foundation for CP. Um, so if you're 23, so we're going on 10 years. It's been around now.
7. 7.
7 years. Okay. Um, all right. Tell me more about it. Get into detail. I know, just for those who want to check it out, it's makelemonade.org, but it's lemonade, AIDE.org. Make lemonade, AIDE.org. Tell me about the foundation that you guys have.
You want to go? Or you want me
Go ahead.
to? Okay. So when I was 12,
Mhm.
my mom took me. She was determined. This lady was on fire to take me to a conference at the CDC, the Center of Disease Control in Atlanta, Georgia, which is where we've lived for almost the last 20 years. Um, so she's busting her way through traffic, trying to find a parking spot, trying to find the right room. I mean, she's on it, right? And we walk in, and it's this conference that includes people with cerebral palsy from all walks of life. There were 2 speakers, and there was a ton of information given on the statistics and current standing of cerebral palsy. and what was being done for it. And what I took away was there's a lot of funding for research, which is wonderful, right? Because everything is needed, but not for CP.
Ah.
And the interesting thing about the position, I guess, of cerebral palsy that night was I looked around the room at everyone attending all across the spectrum of ability. And I was like, there has to be something that is done now. There has to be something that helps children and adults in the now so that there is a future. So I think that's really the grounding point of the foundation. And when my mom and I left that conference, we were both just lit up inside, like a million fireworks going off all at one time. And we went home and we brainstormed. And my mom likes to say we went back to our roots and we wanted something, that everyone could be a part of. So I had a lemonade stand with my mom, my dad, and our fellow neighbors' help as a kid to raise money for a child, when I was a child, for a little girl who had neuroblastoma. And everyone in our neighborhood came out and was so willing and gracious to support. And there was so much joy surrounding this little lemonade stand set up in our neighborhood park. And we really wanted something that would include everyone from all walks of life, and also give a sunny side to a condition that can be very hard and frustrating and heartbreaking to deal with. So I think it's a combination of, or a balance of the sunny and maybe the not so sunny.
That's true. And I'm going to I love that story. When Lauren said, I was trying so hard to get her there that day. Well, why? Why was I trying so hard? I think that's an important question. It was so important for me to take her there that night because the topic was young adults living with cerebral palsy. Can you be successful in your life? And Lauren was just, kind of embarking that. We never really gave Lauren a label. We never put her in a box of cerebral palsy. And this is, but she was starting to come to terms with, wow, this is something I have. And what does that mean for my life and my future? And why was it so important to get her there that evening? Because there's never anything like that for cerebral palsy. So this was like a first thing I ever heard of. And, I'd do anything, and again, there were a lot of challenges in getting her there. She was so accurate. And, but we prevailed and we walked in late, but we got there. And we were showing that night that this was our path. And, when everything convened, there was a Q&A and Lauren she stood up and she was in a walker at that time, or no.
I don't think I'd even had my walker.
Right. And she just hobbled her way up to the microphone. I'm thinking, where is she going? And she shared a story based on a question or a comment or whatever.
It was about the loss of hope.
The loss of hope.
And
if anyone ever gave you, put you in a situation that you had lost hope, and we were in a position of that. And that was, I guess that's a nice thing to share.
I had not my current therapist. I want to clarify that my current therapist will be my my future boss, hopefully in a couple months. And when I graduate grad school, hopefully my boss for decades to come. These people are amazing. But before I found through this lady, there's a current theme with her fighting for me. Before we found this cutting edge therapy program called First Step Physical Therapy, that really is kind of my passion, connected with the foundation. I had an experience with a traditional PT who had told me that I would never make any improvement or get any better. And if you can't tell already, between my two parents, that was not the energy and the mindset of our household.
Yes.
And
And so I had to nicely take him aside. I'll never forget, his name was Keith. And I said, Keith, please, that sounded so harsh. And that is not the frame of mind that we live by in our family. I said, we don't know what's possible and we will never give up, but we don't, we keep it open-ended, our possibilities, right? Again, we don't live in a box, and that is not something, that's not how we operate in our family. So please, please encourage Lauren and give her hope and whatnot. And then lo and behold, as time went on, we did find something to truly help her.
How old was Lauren when that physical therapist said that?
Probably 10 or 11.
Oh.
Yeah, it was sports therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And, I understood that. That was what he...
that was what he knew.
That's what
Right.
he knew.
He wasn't trying. He was trying to be honest.
Yeah.
What he thought.
It was.
Yes.
He wasn't being a bully or whatever.
Right.
But in order for it to be a successful pairing for them, and again, I said everything with kindness to him, but, please, let's be positive. We operate with positivity every single day.
And I don't think it's a sense of false positivity, where some people are positive, and I don't want to say there's no point, because there's always a point, but maybe you're positive and this is really the hand that you're dealt. But I don't think any one of us truly know what's possible medically, and I think First Step Physical Therapy for me and for our fellow foundation members, I think it proves that.
I think we were talking before we started this episode, and we were talking about the power of the mind. I hadn't heard this story yet, and that is a great example of the power of the mind, right?
Yeah.
And the power of positivity. And
Exactly.
I feel like obvious, and it just you're a great example of the power of positivity. The strength of the human mind it's not comprehensible of what you can accomplish if you just say, I'm going for it. Is this, I appreciate that, but that's not how I choose to think. But I also feel like that's a great representation of your foundation. So your foundation has these bright yellow colors, green and yellow, and it's exciting, and it's a positive, fresh look. A lot of people, I give share. I think about you. I think about, I got two girls, having a baby that weighs, 14 ounces. I just don't, that's tough to comprehend. And to stay positive against all odds, and then to see what an amazing young woman Lauren has become, it's extremely inspiring. both of you are extremely
you.
inspiring. Sherry, can I ask Sherry? I mean, what was,
What was that like?
you weren't given good news right from the beginning, were you?
Mm.
I mean, is there, that had to be, how do you
Yeah.
stay positive when you're given news like that? 14 ounces, they tell you she's not gonna.
Yeah, they didn't really, yeah, it was really hard. I'm gonna be honest, right? Like, I mean, everything started out, it went along and, you know, everything was good. And then all of a sudden, our doctor saw that she wasn't growing the way she should. And so I had my first ultrasound and, um, you know, I found out at that time that she was a girl.
Mhm.
And I remember walking out of there like beaming and just like so proud. I was so excited because I'm having my little girl, because I'm a girl mom. I don't even know what I would do with a little boy. But and so it wasn't like a bombshell that hit me right away. We lived in California at the time, and I was on a business trip. I was in Hawaii, unfortunately, when I became very, very ill. And I came home, and soon after that, I went to the hospital. But they weren't quite sure what it was that I had. I was this very, very vibrant, healthy young person. And then I was becoming deathly ill. And I was hospitalized. And thankfully, I had 3 bouts of that. And as time progressed, it became a little more scarier. But my mental state the whole entire time was, okay, she is going to stay in there for 40 weeks. 40 weeks is our goal. And, that was a great state of mind to be in, because I just couldn't imagine life without her. I had her name. She was my girl. We had a room ready. And, that was going to be, I can't even imagine if I didn't have her. I'm sorry.
No, you're okay.
You're
okay.
So I was 27 weeks. And obviously as it became closer, they knew I had a condition called HELLP, HELLP. And it's probably the most serious condition you can have in your, pregnancy books.
Mm.
And preeclampsia, both of them. The problem was I had it so early on. Typically you get it later, like your 3rd trimester. But it was, I guess the blood was backing up in the placenta, and I was dying. All my organs were giving out, and I did that for a month. And then it was time they took her. And we just rallied around her.
What did Dad say? The nurse was like, she's so pink. And my dad was like, okay. And I think, if I'll give you a minute, but my parents are truly the definition of pillars of a temple. There's a poem that says, pillars of a temple, they stand together, but not too near together. For the pillars of a temple stand apart. And that was actually my dance partner's wedding with his wife. And I think about it now, and I just think about that. That was my parents. That's been my parents since they were engaged and got married. Most people don't make it through a child being born so prematurely, and they don't always make it through with any type of medical diagnosis, let alone raise that child as you would any other child. So yes, I think my mom was heartbroken. I can't speak for my dad. I'm sure he was too, but he was on it. He made me my own chart because I was too small to be kept recorded in any standard medical chart. And he really took the bull by the horns and took care of me while my mom was being nursed back to health in the hospital. And I can't imagine what that's like going through it firsthand. But I can start to imagine what it's like watching the person you love most go through their most difficult season because of the season we just went through.
But, you know, I had a minute there to reflect. There was never, when Lauren was born, there was never a minute of doubt in our minds. Like we just believed that she was going to be with us. And, you know, we did everything we could. It was the simplest of things. I remember once the nurses said, the babies who have the strongest survival are those, the parents that are there, you know, with them all the time. I heard that. I got out of my hospital bed after my C-section, after being, you know, on all this medication the night before, and, you know, blood pressures storming through the roof. Where was I the next day? I was in the NICU. And the other dads were like, you know, when did you have your baby? I had my baby yesterday evening. Really? So did my wife. She can't even move. Well, I heard that if we are in there with her and she had a stronger chance of survival, I was going to be there. And so that's what we did. One time, my husband, my mom and my mom came out from Buffalo, and we were just sitting there looking at in the isolette, and the one neonatologist walked by and he said, are you waiting for the grass to grow? And we said, we're waiting. It wasn't an easy journey. You know, it wasn't a sprint. It was definitely a marathon. But we always had the greatest hope. I think it's even more than hope. Hope is like, you're just wishing, right? We knew it was in our hearts, and it was bigger. It was bigger than us. The power, it was out of our control, but it was bigger. Like I knew God's will was for her to be with us. And it was pretty beautiful in itself.
Well, now we know where
So-
you get your fighting spirit from, Lauren, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Not hard to figure that out.
No.
Talk about Lauren. I mean, talk about, you know, how she inspires you now, because we had talked before of what she goes through, and then just kind of says her attitude is whatever, and she moves forward, and she's you know, what she wants to do with her life, how she wants to give back, her dealing with the vocal cord thing now, and she has a passion for speaking. Can you walk me through what inspires you about your daughter?
Wow. Everything inspires me. Her her zest for life, and you know, how she just, it could be the simplest interaction of somebody who she meets on the street, how she just gives her whole heart to someone. I mean, she's beautiful. Hold on. Yeah, she inspires me in like just so many ways, especially, sorry.
You're okay.
Especially what I've just gone through.
You want me to?
Well,
Okay.
I know, you know, we talked about this, but I guess, yeah. So there's this family, this inspirational family, this go get them. They never give up. And I know, Sherry, you're battling your own health issue now, and fighting through. I know it's been, yeah, we are, we're obviously rooting for you. But if I'm trying to think of a way to say this, if anybody should have to deal with this, it shouldn't be you, but it should be because you're the kind of people that will fight through it, and you're the kind of people
Exactly.
that will teach others the power of positivity and the mental never giving up attitude. It just,
Exactly.
you guys are you're great role models. And now, Sherry, it's your turn again, right?
Yes. So to answer your question, I was so prepared for this. Quite honestly, I was diagnosed with, I guess we're not saying it, but I was diagnosed with breast cancer back in February of this year. And looking back, I was so prepared to deal with this, not even knowing it. But I saw that early on, just, everything that Lauren went through, her daily struggles. And, Lauren was always, when she was little, she might have fallen a million times and had scrapes all over her knees, but she just popped up with the sweetest little attitude. And I was just always so blown away by that, right? Like, wow, she just had so much strength and courage, and to witness that every single day. And on my part, just foster that and whatnot. It prepared me for what I've gone through these last few months, right? And even with my my younger daughter, she has type 1 diabetes. And I remember when I first was going to have this port put in, and I was like, what? There was going to be this thing, hanging off my body. And I said to myself, you get over it, get over it. Because my little one, my Margaret, has to wear a pump every single day of her life and a monitor that you see externally every single day. Think of the things that she has to go through. And I just said to myself, get over it and march forward. And that's what I did. And you know what? Like, I think the emotion that I'm, the tears that I just had is finally the tears maybe I needed to, it was my letdown because, I had to go through chemo, and then I had a double mastectomy, and I just finished yesterday 25 rounds of radiation.
Congratulations.
So
She got to ring the bell.
Did you ring the bell?
I did.
Oh, that's great. Good for you.
Yeah. I think to circle back to your question, I don't think you might have been prepared, but I don't think my mom, or this is my mom, my dad, my sister and I were. And because my sister and I were always the patient, it's very easy being the patient from my perspective, because I've done that for my whole life. That's a role I know quite intimately. But when the person that you love most has probably most stereotypical scary diagnosis,
Oh, you guys froze again.
Can you hear us?
We had a little
back,
technical
okay.
problem. You're back. Yeah, you were talking about, wow, what an interesting perspective. But go ahead, continue.
It was really fascinating. I think because I'm older now, I wasn't planning, I was loosely planning on going back to my campus last semester, but I wasn't feeling great. So I was like, maybe not. And then my mom got diagnosed.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, there's no way I'm going back now. Even though she and my dad encouraged me to do what I wanted. And what I wanted was to be home and take care of the person that's always taking care of me. So we kind of switched roles for the past year. I was a mom to my mom. I was a caretaker to my mom. And I'm just so blessed to be able to know that I got to do that. You know, that she let me do that. Because I think one thing that she and I have both learned throughout this season is in order to be positive and to really maintain that positivity, you have to let yourself feel all the emotions. Otherwise, it's not a true sense of positivity. You're just fooling yourself. But if you let yourself break down in those hard moments and let yourself feel that pain and that anger and that frustration and go, okay, I need to be taken care of. And there's nothing wrong with that. That it shows a sense of positivity or a sense of vulnerability. That only increases your sense of positivity.
Wow. That's, I can't add to that.
You know, I have to, can I regress
Yeah.
for just 1 minute? I have to share when I rang the bell yesterday, my team of health professionals all wore yellow yesterday
Oh, that's great. Yeah, right.
as a honor to Lauren and I.
Yeah.
And they didn't wear pink,
Mhm.
they wore yellow. And it was such a beautiful surprise, you know, for us to see that, you know, they all, you know, the whole 25 days or whatever, you know, that was my heart, you know, that's still my forefront. It's still my mission. It's my #1 mission. Obviously, you know, pink is, you know, close to my heart. One thing I want to share, because I think it's important for people to know, when I was diagnosed, I do have to say it was a beautiful feeling that, you know, I went to the doctor and there was a protocol, right? And so there was a roadmap of exactly what to do. And within that protocol, there were treatment plans. Boom, 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 boom. I went and got second opinions and they were spot on, right? And then my point is there's so much money to support breast cancer. Thank heavens, right? But I felt that strong, amazing gift of when there's funding, life is completely different with it, right? The medicines that I'm taking and whatnot, that I'm still taking until the end of April, there's research, right? There's lots and lots of research that they're even improving these drugs to give people better outcomes, right? So I have nothing, I believe that I'm going to be the most amazing grandmother one day on the planet. And
Long time from now.
but my point is that is not the same for those when they're diagnosed with cerebral palsy. I didn't have the same feeling. I have something to compare now. When Lauren was diagnosed, you just were kind of left out there. Now what do I do? It was very scary.
That's a really good correlation.
You know, and then fast forward, you know, when I got the news about the breast cancer, there was a plan. Same with, you know, when my younger one was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, you know, they got it. They keep chugging and chugging and chugging away. One day she won't have to wear that external pump. I know she won't. And so people need to understand that, you know, when you have a child with cerebral palsy, it affects the whole family, the whole entire family. I kid you not. My daughter feels it. My younger one feels it too. And so, you know, I think what we do every day is amazing. I just want to kind of hit a little bit on that, like from all aspects of what our foundation is. And yes, we're this, sunshiny, lemonade, front face or whatever. Something, as Lauren said, for everyone to embrace. Importantly, children, not just children with cerebral palsy, all children. Why? There's not enough of that today. There's not enough platforms, I guess is a good word for it, for young people to be a part of. And that's important because when you're a part of something, if you're out there having a little lemonade stand, Lauren experienced it firsthand with all of our little neighborhood friends, right? When you're out there doing something, you feel so good about yourself. Yeah, you're doing it for someone else, but who is the benefit of it truly? It's the person doing it for you, right? So it teaches us so much. Children not affected, it just teaches them a little bit more about others and giving. And I think I always said to Lauren, we need a platform for young people so that they can start planting seeds and building seeds within and feeling good about themselves. Why? It builds self-esteem, it builds confidence, all those things. That was one of my missions for starting this when Lauren said she wanted to do this, because I knew that she needed the strength and the strongest confidence on the planet to deal with what she was going to face in her life. And I feel like I know I did my job. I wasn't sure how I was going to do that when she was little, but I'm here to tell you, when you're a part of something, even as a little person, you feel so good inside. When you're out there trying to sell a little glass of lemonade and embrace something bigger than yourself, and all, like, every cup counts or every drop counts, whatever, however you want to say it. It's a twofold thing always, right? So, we launched in 2013 in Buffalo, and we formed a community, a cerebral palsy community, where our people can come together, and we host events, big events, little events. And it's a day, say if it's our walk, run, roll, laps of love, down at the Outer Harbor in Buffalo. It's a day where we all come together and we celebrate and we honor our people, because they deserve to be celebrated too. And we've witnessed so many beautiful stories, and it's a day where they're not stared at, they're accepted. We haven't talked about that a lot yet today, but acceptance and inclusion is huge. We strive for that. Those are Lauren's personal goals, is that we can foster acceptance and inclusion, it's just so important. But there's just so many beautiful things that our foundation is a part of. We have a wonderful opportunity with the Buffalo Sabres pre-COVID, where they invite us, our CP community, come out, and it's carte blanche for them. And it's such a beautiful day, evening for them to, it's like, thank you, Buffalo Sabres, because we love our Sabres. And it's, again, this community, this doesn't happen for them. And so we're very, very proud that happens. And we work really hard raising every single dollar, every dollar, so that we can provide grants to this cutting edge therapy that it's changed Lauren's life. We've been blessed. I'm just going to say that through my husband's success and whatnot, that we have been able to afford her this therapy here in Atlanta. But we also always felt, Lauren, you know, our right-hand partner, Carol Walier, my sister-in-law, who oversees everything in Buffalo. We couldn't do it without her, literally. But you know, we provide grants for this therapy, and we're just, you know, we so badly want first step therapy. We're working really, really hard to bring it to Buffalo so that so patients in the community overall, just people overall, have access to this cutting edge therapy program that can help change lives. And our part is, you know, giving these therapy grants. And we have, you know, had a lot of our CP families come down to Atlanta, and they can see it. They can see huge changes for their little ones.
Well, I know
So-
firsthand. I mean, we have a friend whose son has CP, and they can't say enough good things about your foundation, what it's done for their son, what it's done for their family, and the cutting edge therapies. Yeah, like 10 years ago, you know, they may not have been able to do this, so they feel very fortunate that your foundation exists, and that what you guys have done for them. So the foundation again is Make Lemonaide Foundation for CP, and you can get involved, and you can check out the website for different events. You could donate right there on the website. It's makelemonaide.org. Make Lemonaide, LEMONAIDE.org. And I can't remember the name of the event in the summer at the harbor again. You mentioned it. I've been to that. It's super cute.
Yeah.
It's really a cool event. And there's a lot of smiles, a lot of victories.
Mhm.
It's a really,
There are.
yeah, it's a really, really, what's it called again? What's it called, the event?
So pre-COVID, it was called a walk, run, roll in Lauren's shoes. And then last year, just because we couldn't be together to keep everyone safe, was called Laps of Love.
Yeah.
And it was more of an exhibit and an awareness builder, again, building upon what is cerebral palsy, about inclusion and acceptance, being a good friend, all those kinds of things. We all need friends, right? Because that alone can make each day better for someone.
And Lauren, we'll wrap it up here in a little bit, but ballroom dancing. Talk to me here. What's going on?
So I had wanted to dance since I was 2 or 3. I grew up watching these old vintage movies with my grandparents, my mom's dad and stepmom, and they had Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers and Jane Kelly and Sid Charisse and all these fantastic classic human beings with an abundance of talent, right? Because I mean, they were probably pretty cutting edge for their time, but there's no auto tune. There might not have been a green screen, so you get to watch these phenomenal choreographed dance routines on screen with such passion. And I remember sitting there in all my gear, as I called it, wondering how I was going to do that one day. And I wanted to do it just like I saw on the screen. There's nothing wrong with doing it in a wheelchair. There's nothing wrong with doing it in a walker or an assistive device. It's just as beautiful. It's just as freeing. I just wanted to connect to what I saw as a little girl. And when I had progressed enough through this program that I was able to function, I don't want to say without an assistive device, because I had a crutch at the time. But when I got to the point where I was able to function, maybe absent from it for a little while, I truly began to dance, and I tested the waters for the first couple of months. And then I met my current ballroom dance partner, who my mom is showing.
If you're listening, you can't see
This
this.
is like legit.
Proud mom has a book. What's the book? What are we looking at?
It's just a photo from our first routine that we went national and international.
So
So-
who's that? Your part? Who is that guy?
That's my partner and my coach.
Oh, what's his name?
His name is Mayo Allen. He's one of the very best in our ballroom industry. And I'm just so grateful to be his student and partner.
And he's a huge supporter of our foundation as
Mhm.
well.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And because you weren't busy enough, you also wrote a book. What was the name of the book? Is The Dancing Swan. It's based on your own, but it's a children's book,
Mhm.
right? The Dancing Swan. Can you tell me about the Dancing Swan?
Yes, so when I was little, I'd have story time with my mom and my dad, and they'd read me book after book after book after book. And I loved it. I loved getting lost in adventures, all the different stories. I'm an avid reader today because of that. And I wanted to create a children's book that represented what I didn't see in books as a little girl. So, disability, friendship, hard work, family support, love, kindness, acceptance, inclusion, all these different things to foster and hopefully little kids growing up in generations now. So it's based off my dancing routine that my dance partner and I first debuted with. It's
Called the Swan.
the Swan, but the book is called The Dancing Swan. So it's a little bit of kind of expansion on that, with very beautiful illustrations. I'm very grateful to my co-author that worked with me on that. So it really is a dream come true in terms of representation.
Where can we find it?
On
Amazon?
Is it
Amazon.
Amazon? Great. So the name of the
Amazon,
book
yeah.
is The Dancing Swan, correct?
Yeah.
Awesome. Look, we always try to tell stories of inspiration. We also like to give out information, and then we try to educate. And I think you've educated quite a few people here, hopefully through this episode of about the importance of, did you call it the forgotten condition, cerebral palsy? Bring it to light. Lots of information, and there's information more on that website at makelemonaide.org. I really encourage anyone listening or watching to at least visit the website and try to and other websites, learn about cerebral palsy, learn about, understand what it is. It took me to do some research and talking to these ladies to understand what it is. I knew it was there, it's like,
Mhm.
but I never really comprehended it. And so, and it's in my life indirectly because of our friend's son. So we, learned a little bit there as well, but never really understood how underfunded, under-recognized, or maybe underappreciated
Mhm. Mhm.
cerebral palsy is. And so I applaud you both, obviously, for your fortitude, your intestinal fortitude, your mental strength, but for recognizing that we need to recognize this particular disease more. We need to understand it more. And it's about helping those that are in need, but their families as well. As you said, it affects everybody. So the more people understand about cerebral palsy, I think the more they will observe it, at least if it's not directly affecting them and their family, and
Mhm.
appreciate it more when they see it, and appreciate it more when it's time for giving or getting involved, right? That's what we need. Let's be realistic. Okay. So
Exactly.
we need people to get more involved. We need people to understand it more. We need people to spread the word more, and we need people to give money to this foundation. We're a very giving country. And like you had mentioned, Sherry, there are other diseases, thank God, that we support. It's breast cancer, diabetes. But this is something that, for whatever reason, just doesn't get the attention, maybe, but it is certainly affects a lot of people and a lot of families. And it's your efforts obviously are applauded, but I'm going to tell you, I encourage you, keep it going. I mean, the more people know about it, just one person at a time, to help one other kid or one other
Exactly.
family, then I guess then it's worth it. So hopefully, if it's just one person says, I'm going to check out, I'm going to learn more about cerebral palsy, then the time that we've just invested today is certainly worth it. But again, it's the Make Lemonaide Foundation for CP. It's Make Lemonaide, LEMONAIDE.org, makelemonaide.org. Lauren, Sherry, thank you for what you guys do. Thanks for sharing your stories. If somebody wants to learn more, and or talk to you directly or email you directly, can they do that through the website?
They can.
Okay. So makelemonaide.org. I encourage you to check it out and to do whatever you can. At this time of this recording, it's December, what are we at, 9 now? 2021.
December 9th. Mhm.
So at end of year, if you're hearing this now and you need to, if you're a business and need to contribute and look for something each year, I encourage you to support the Make Lemonades Foundation for CP. Lauren and Sherry, thank you. Thanks for everything. Thanks for your time. Thanks for what you
Thank
do.
you.
We're rooting for you, Lauren. Sherry, we're rooting for you. Keep fighting. And we look forward to Make Lemonade Foundation to someday become a household foundation. People know exactly what it
Absolutely.
is. Thanks,
Exactly.
ladies.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Steve.
So thank you for watching, for listening, for participating. Listen, if you have an inspirational story that you think we need to share, you can go to our website, which is shovelthesidewalk.com. There's a form you can fill out, and we'll get your story out there as well. Any story of inspiration, information, if we can educate, we'll do it. So thanks again to Lauren and to Sherry. Thank you for watching and listening. I'm Steve Fortunato, and this has been Sidewalk Talk.